Speaker, I am speaking about the letters, Honorable Speaker, that I have, which I will table before the House, Honorable Speaker, because I have copies in the office from the Registrar of Political Parties. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to beg of you that as you make that decision, look at those facts. Also, Honorable Speaker, look at the facts that today, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Osoro, did submit a letter to you on my nomination and election as the leader of majority in September of 2022, signed and assented to by over 171 members of this House. The Honorable Junet Mohammed, late last year, after the Honorable Pio left, did submit the whip.
Yes, wind up.
The Honorable Junet Mohammed, in his nomination as the leader of minority, did submit a letter nominating him upon election by Azimio coalition as the minority leader, signed by a paltry 80 members of the Azimio coalition. Actually less than even what is provided for in our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker. Less than what is provided for in our standing orders, because our standing orders have a certain threshold as to who and how many members should have elected you as a minority leader, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is my humble submission that you have facts on your table. Make a ruling when the time comes.
Mwengi Mutuse. Pardon?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, David Ocheng, what is the point of order?
I was mentioned adversely by the Honorable Junet.
I told him he was out of order, so you are protected.
Mr. Speaker, I just need to mention something, that Mr. Junet claims to be the Secretary General of Azimio. Could you tell this House today where the Azimio offices are in this country?
Mwengi Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and if you may protect me that I may be heard in silence.
Order, members. Order.
Mr. Speaker, we are debating a very important matter, and you are sitting on a very delicate matter. When you retire to make a ruling, you'll be making a ruling for the country. I am one of the lawyers who participated in the litigation that led to this decision, and therefore I am aware of the facts and the law and the arguments that went into court for this determination to be made. Mr. Speaker, importantly, as you retreat, I am elected under the Maendeleo Chapter Party, which is one of the parties whose membership is under dispute. I will be tabling before this House a letter dated 30th January 2024 by the Registrar of Political Parties confirming that Maendeleo Chapter Party is no longer a member of the Azimio One Kenya coalition. And I will be asking you, when you retreat, to give effect to that exit in line with the ruling that you made on the 6th of August 2023, as well as the judgment of the court. Mr. Speaker, as you retreat also, I will invite you to look at an important doctrine that has been developed by the Supreme Court in the United States, and that has been applied locally. And this is the political question doctrine, or the doctrine of justiciability. This doctrine was developed so that the separation of powers can be given effect, so that matters that are for the legislature are left to the legislature, matters that are for the judiciary are left to the judiciary, and matters that are for the executive are left to the executive. It is my submission that the matter of determining the minority leadership and the majority leadership is a matter for Parliament and is not a matter for courts of law. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it is important to look at the gazettement, the gazette notice that declared the members who have won positions. In the gazettement that was released by the IEBC, there was no mention of coalitions. There was no mention of Azimio. There was no mention of Kenya Kwanza. In my constituency, they declared Mwengi Mutuse the winner under Maendeleo Chap. In all the other constituencies, and if you look at that gazette notice, there was no mention of a coalition. And therefore, you cannot assign membership based on the election. You assign membership based on the realities of the day. And this is to say that the issue of minority and majority is a moving target and can change anytime. And therefore, I urge you, Mr. Speaker, as I table this letter, to find that the numbers from Maendeleo Chap, we exited Azimio, and therefore, we should be counted on the Kenya Kwanza side.
Thank you. Madenge of Nyeri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to start by acknowledging that in our country, the formation of coalitions is around post and pre-elections. And therefore, the determination of this case, Honorable Speaker, would only have benefited Azimio if the courts had made their determination urgently as the case was taken to court under a certificate of urgency. This judgment, coming 2 years late, is unimplementable because the realities are that there have been movements in and out of Azimio. Mr. Speaker, it is important that also this House addresses the judiciary, that it is no longer tenable for the judiciary to certify a matter urgent but make a determination 2 years late. So where is the urgency? And we must be practical in terms of handling the issues of Kenyans when they go before the judiciary. Honorable Speaker, as at this point in time, the only way out of this quagmire is for you, Mr. Speaker, and Parliament to communicate afresh to the Registrar of Political Parties and give us the facts as they are today, and on the basis of the response from the Registrar of Political Parties, make a determination as to which party has the majority members, and therefore let us move on with the business of the House. Honorable Speaker, I urge you to actually start and make a ruling on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Didimas.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I have read the court ruling. The ruling touches on a number of issues that requires constitutional direction, Honorable Speaker, so that nobody else can misuse those kind of things to put this House into limbo, Honorable Speaker. I have singled out from what the court said that because you belong to a political coalition, you are not impartial in a manner that the Speaker of this House is required, Honorable Speaker. As you retreat to make a ruling on this matter, I want you to put your mind on what the framers of our Constitution and our standing orders mitigated when they said that the Speaker of this House doesn't have a vote. When they said that the Speaker of this House doesn't influence in a manner in which the members of this House will make a decision. Honorable Speaker, Kenya as a country and our House takes a lot of what happens in other countries of comparable jurisdictions. An example of a country, the United States, where their system is also purely presidential system. Our system is also presidential, Honorable Speaker. If you look at how Nancy Pelosi presided over the affairs of the Parliament of the United States, Honorable Speaker, yet she belonged to the Democrat Party, Honorable Speaker. If you look at what is happening now, the current Speaker, it belongs to the Republican. But that doesn't stop them from being impartial in their conduct of the affairs of the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you make a ruling on this, you must be guided by Article 122 of our Constitution that it makes it very clear that the Speaker of the House doesn't participate in the affairs of the House, Honorable Speaker. Last but not least, the role of the courts is not to make any law, but to interpret the law. When we went to elect you as Speaker of this House, we were guided by the standing orders. There is no qualifications as to which, on whether the Speaker should not be a member of any political party. And above all, Honorable Speaker, the Speaker is a member of Parliament. So as you retreat to make the determination, you must bring to the attention of the country that the Speaker is indeed a member of Parliament, but not a civil servant. I beg to differ with the ruling of the Court, Honourable Speaker.
Major Bashir.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I want to give my input on this matter. Honourable Speaker, this matter is a matter that you have ruled on 6 October 2022. It's now almost 2 years, and looks like we have been taken back on something that you have made a ruling. And from that time up to now, I think this House has done exceptionally well in executing its duty and mandate. Now that we have been taken back, and I think the ruling itself is not in good faith. Honourable Speaker, I was looking at the ruling itself. One thing that I picked is the issue that said the electorates determined who is...
Yes, member for Kibra. What's your point of order? Hold Bashir's time. Yes, Orone.
Honourable Speaker, only 30 members have spoken. I would wish that we reduce the minutes from 5 to 2.
We are doing 3. 3 minutes, Orone, is not too bad.
It's not too much.
Go on, Bashir. Pardon?
Honourable Speaker, I was saying that in part of the ruling, it stated that the voters determined who is majority and minority during the ballot. If you look at the specimen of the ballot paper, there was nowhere written Kenya Kwanza coalition or Azimio coalition. It was just individual members and individual parties. So I think on that aspect, they might have gone a bit too low on that aspect as well. So there's no way the voters will have determined who is a member of a coalition and who is not a member of a coalition. Honourable Speaker, there is what we call pre-election pacts and post-election pacts. For the purpose of UDM, which I'm a member as well, we had a pre-election pact with Azimio coalition. We also had, after the elections, post-election pact with Kenya Kwanza. It's allowed. It is there in our statutes. There's no doubt about it. So if we, as UDM, decided that now we are working and have a relationship with Kenya Kwanza, I think no one can stop us from saying, why are you interacting? There's freedom of assertion, freedom of speech as well. So I think on that matter, and as you make your determination, the only person that you need to rely on is to ask the registrar of political parties to tell you what is the status of these 14 members through their parties and determine whether they belong to Kenya Kwanza or they belong to Azimio coalition. And I think on that aspect, we'll go back to what we call a status quo ante until you make the declaration. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Jen Kagiri.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I attempted to understand the ruling and I realized it was 71 pages, 507 paragraphs. I read that there were 34 prayers, but the judges only honored 3. Honourable Speaker, in one of the rulings, the first one, the judges said that the majority and minority were already determined at the ballot on 9th August 2022. Honourable Speaker, as a layman, I would want to translate this to mean that the determination that was done at the ballot paper is based on the members of parliament seated in this house, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I believe it's in your power to determine who the majority and the minority are by even a simple head count. I believe in the Constitution there is the freedom of association and any member can choose to be in whatever coalition they are in. Honourable Speaker, I believe it will be your honour to make the determination of the minority majority based on that, and I believe for the parties that already left their coalitions, there is a right to be in new associations that they deem comfortable and necessary for them. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Jen. Deputy Speaker, you said you wanted gender. Now let me give the women. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think when this judgment came out, I remember reading it with a lot of disbelief as a lawyer. And first of all, maybe I can correct Honorable Junet. The court did not say that Azimio is the majority party. So you actually cannot be sitting on that seat. That is going to be determined by the Speaker. As we speak now, that is not the case. So I said, I just wanted to point out a few things here. When I read the judgment, I can say it's conflated, it's convoluted, it is confusing, and it even reveals that there was no laws looked into. For example, the argument, Section 12 of the Political Parties Act prohibits every public officer from getting into a party or in politicking. But in subclause 2, it gives an exemption to the president, the deputy president, members of parliament, members of the county assembly, governors, and deputy governors. And the Speaker is a member of the National Assembly. Article 97 of the Constitution gives the membership of Parliament, which includes the Speaker, the substantive Speaker, as an ex officio member. So even just from looking at that, and that is why I would like my colleagues who are praising the judgment to know that it has very glaring, complete disregard of the law. And that one, you don't need to be a magician. Just read Article 97 of the Constitution and then read Section 12, subsection 2. Also, if you see the way the court has interpreted the law and said that the determination of who is the majority party and minority party is decided by the people at the time of the ballot. Again, that is inaccurate. Kenya is a first past the post electoral system, which means it is individuals who have voted who can enter into a coalition and join parties. And I think they are confusing it with the South African method, because the South Africa has a mixed member proportional representation system. So people are voted in by parties, not as individuals. And so, just looking at that, we need to also ask ourselves in Parliament that how is it that we have a judiciary that does not follow the same laws that they are supposed to apply and interpret. Also, if you look at during the arguments of the case, the judgment itself in the judgment says that they decided to look at other evidence and that they did not have any evidence of who had left the coalition. But at the same breath, in the same judgment, they contradict themselves and point out that the Registrar of Political Parties provided for them the evidence. And even as we speak now, Honorable Speaker, when you are away is when this judgment came out. And immediately, I instructed the clerk of the National Assembly to write to the Registrar of Political Parties to give us a true position of how the membership is organized. And therefore, I'm requesting that the clerk should be able to give me that letter so that I can table it and let it become part of these proceedings. And then, purely that it will be your decision to make a ruling as to the majority and minority parties as the Speaker. And the courts don't have any power to do it. That's why, even though they nullified your ruling, they did not actually make any declaration, because they know that that is a pure mandate of the Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Emmanuel Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to first and foremost seek that you clarify on one or two issues, basically. The issue, Honorable Speaker, to do with among the very many prayers that were cited by the petitioner was the prayer to declare the seat of yourself as being vacant. A situation which you tried to explain, Honorable Speaker, in the beginning, but my take it goes differently, Honorable Speaker. That, Honorable Speaker, we all know Article 106(2) particularly gives us analyzes how you can vacate your office, Honorable Speaker. But in this case, Honorable Speaker, the court appears to be following the petitioner who is chasing on the wild goose to understand, Honorable Speaker, how you can release because of your party affiliation. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'll be seeking that you clarify in your ruling on whether how the court has come up with this decision
on whether this is in order, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, number 2 on the prayers requested is about the Article 103 as it appears together with the Political Parties Act, particularly Section 14, Honorable Speaker, which puts you to, which Honorable Speaker, the petitioner wanted to understand whether by virtue of our association, a member can exit a political party or a coalition. But Honorable Speaker, the ruling has not appeared to me to satisfactorily respond to it. Therefore, I'll be seeking, Honorable Speaker, that you clarify whether it is true that there is another way other than writing to the registrar of political party to respond to confirm that I am or I belong to a particular coalition or a particular party. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, those are my 2 issues. I would wish that you clarify as you make your ruling. Thank you. Kuuma.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the High Court has made this decision pursuant to Article 165 of the Constitution. And Honorable Speaker, that power gives the High Court original jurisdiction over matters concerning questions of interpretation of the Constitution. But Honorable Speaker, we must be alive to the fact that the High Court only exercises original jurisdiction. This matter most likely will go to the Court of Appeal under Article 164 and ultimately, Honorable Speaker, to the Supreme Court under Article 163 because it is a matter concerning constitutional interpretation. And Honorable Speaker, I therefore want to say that you may be in your right place to make a decision on this matter, but I request you have regard to the provisions of Article 10, Sub-Article 2, as you communicate your position to guide us in terms of how to proceed. Honorable Speaker, having said so, as you make your decision, I wanted to request that you help us understand and resolve the following matters. Number 1, Honorable Speaker, what members are asking is the determination of which party is majority or minority in Parliament a de jure determination or it is a de facto? Is it based on law or it sits on existing facts? And Honorable Speaker, may your communication clarify that. I'm asking Honorable Speaker, together with the honorable members, that is it a decision to be made at once at elections and then it remains static, or it is capable of change due to the possibility of post-election coalitions? Honorable Speaker, we've seen this in Israel, we've seen this in Germany. What happens if it is static and at once? If these parties like UDM, the parties like MDG, the parties that were to move from Azimio, were to actually effectively, successfully and lawfully move from Azimio and join Kenya Kwanza, how would that position sit with the judgment? Honorable Speaker, I'm also asking you to clarify that if the determination is static, then Honorable Speaker, how does the judgment sit with the provisions of Article 36 of the Constitution? And Honorable Speaker, as you make your determination, I wanted to...
Give him 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, would you look, when you decide, at the provisions of Standing Order number 178, subsection 2, as read with Standing Order 174, subsection 2A. Honorable Speaker, what I'm asking, to what extent does this decision affect leadership of oversight committees like PAC, or asked differently, can the members of the parties which the judgment has said did not move from Azimio seek to chair those oversight committees and members who are independent? And to what extent would it affect our side? Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the matter concerning the sitting of the Speaker, I would request that you look at the provisions of Article 106, Sub-Article 2. But lastly, Honorable Speaker, as a supporter of broad-based government, allow me only to say this. Honorable Speaker, it is very painful when supporters of broad-based government are traveling like to Mombasa and they go to economy and you find Gakuya wa Muchomba sitting on business class because they're chairs of committee. We want reorganization that ensures equity in the broad-based system. And that is why I would agree that whatever decision you make, we must be equally integrated as a broad-based government in a presidential system. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Lilian Kogo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. And I must say that in the spirit of separation of powers, whatever we decide on the plenary is unanimously decided by the Speaker of the National Assembly. And in the recent past, the judiciary has had its own share of problems, which it could be making diversions from to make attention to Parliament. Why is this particular judgment being made 2.5 years after elections? What is their intention? We have issues of governance that we want to solve for our people. The people of Rangwe have no roads. I am not interested on who majority or minority is, but I want Junet Muhammad to be the majority. But for all I care right now is service delivery to the people of Kenya. This is what I want to say concerning this matter. We have 345 members or thereabout in the National Assembly. Where they come from, known with their names. Let next Tuesday determine this matter. Let everybody come in. Let us tell us whether they want to be majority or minority. We dispense with this matter and we go to serious national issues that will help the executive deliver on its mandate. And even us as members of National Assembly, we have a mandate to deliver to the people of the Republic of Kenya. And when it comes to voting for the Speaker of National Assembly, I will personally vote for one Moses Masika Wetangula to be the Speaker of National Assembly, so that we stop wasting a lot of time. We stop wasting a lot of time, Honorable Speaker. The world is moving forward. What are we doing as Kenyans? And if we are talking of majority and minority, how could majority impeach its own vice president? This is something that happened last year. So goals have shifted, posts have shifted, as it were. Wakisema ni Junet niko na yeye. But what we want is that we want service delivery to Kenyans in the best way possible.
Thank you, member for Keio South. Oh, I'll give you, don't worry. Everybody will speak. There's plenty of time. I'm in no hurry. I'll listen to all of you. You are making my mind richer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like my other colleagues, I have also read the judgment from the court. And Mr. Speaker, the only thing which they said you did wrong was that you didn't submit in your affidavit the evidence that the three parties. Mr. Speaker, you need to protect me.
You are protected. Go on. Wanjala, you are making the member on the floor feel intimidated.
Mr. Speaker, I have read the same judgment like my colleagues. And Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me say
that you have never been impartial in this House. You have always been impartial. That one, there is no question. Mr. Speaker, the three-judge bench say that your only problem is that you didn't submit the evidence in your affidavit. So, Mr. Speaker, what you just need to do is to write to the registrar of political parties, get the evidence that the three parties, that is the UDM, PA, and the rest, that there are 14 members belong to Kenya Kwanza coalition. And, Mr. Speaker, I also want to agree with my colleagues that the coalitions keep changing. Yesterday, we might have a coalition with 2 or 3 parties. Tomorrow, one coalition can move from this, one party can move from this coalition to another coalition. So the position of which party is majority or minority is dependent on which party has moved to which coalition. So, Mr. Speaker, in your ruling, just write to the registrar of political parties, get us which coalition has how many members, and that matter is put to rest. Otherwise, like my colleague has said, that matter should rest here. The work of the court is not to decide which party or which coalition has how many members. It is the work and the ruling of the Speaker to decide which coalition has how many members. And as my colleagues have said, the court did not say that Azimio is the majority or this one is the majority. That's the work of the Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as you make your ruling, we'll abide by your ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I read the ruling, and in what I see as a strange judgment and one which is purely personal, driven by mischief. Honorable Speaker, why do I say so? The judgment stated that the Speaker is a stranger to this House and not a member of this House. Is this not shocking that the very persons who are supposed to interpret and apply the Constitution disregarded the plain provisions of Article 97 of the Constitution, which clearly states that you are a member of this House? In any case, Honorable Speaker, it is plain truth that the Speaker of any parliament is actually a member number 1 of that parliament. For the court to misread the Constitution to create public perception that you, the Speaker of the National Assembly, are not a member of parliament, in my opinion, amending the Constitution within the walls of the courtroom, contrary to the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, the same judgment went to great lengths to explain how the Speaker cannot hold a political office. Now, where is it written in the Constitution that a Speaker elected by members of this House cannot hold a political office? Where in, Honorable Speaker, to note is that the same court never gave final orders that the Speaker of the National Assembly cannot hold this political office. Honorable Speaker, how did the question of which is the majority and minority parties end up being a question to determine whether the Speaker can hold a political office? Honorable Speaker, allow me to say this, that we will not sit here and watch unknown forces try to play dirty within the House and the sanctity of the Speakership. As our Speaker, we say no to such games. As our great Mulembe son, we say no to such antics. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, as our great national leader, we say a loud no to such games, and you stay put. I rest my case, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Nyareba Richache. Nabi Nabwera. Can I reduce to 2 minutes? No. 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nabi, compose your argument, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the following to say. Mr. Speaker, I want to associate myself with the comments made by Karoli Omondi. Mr. Speaker, this ruling is inviting you to make a finding. And Mr. Speaker, to make that finding, it is so simple, based on our Constitution, the Political Parties Act, and the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, can you be invited to make a finding based on the following? Number one, the letter from the Register of Political Parties, as the situation is. Number two, the spirit of broad-based. In fact, if I was Ichungwa Kimani today, in the spirit of broad-based, having done 2.5 years as majority leader, I would have come here and said, now, Mr. Junet, we are the drivers of broad-based. Can you now take over and take this ship to the next level? That is what we want in broad-based, to unite the country. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I have realized in the recent past, just like what happened in 2013, 2014, a group of people, and I name them, the national media and the courts, targeting Parliament. And I want to call upon my colleagues in this House. This judgment is not about the Speaker, it's about Parliament. If we don't stand up against the judiciary, we are headed to the wrong direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Betty Maina. Betty Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to seek for your
You have 2 minutes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to seek for your clarification. Who is to guide this House when there is a stalemate? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the court found that the decision you made in this House was null and void. My question is, in incidents like today there is a lacuna, who should make such decisions in this House? Finally, Mr. Speaker, is it within your inherent powers of the Speaker under Standing Order number 1 to make decisions of this House all our court? I ask those questions humbly, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Marian Kaitani.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to make reference to a letter that is doing the rounds on social media, and I think it's been written to you for your resignation following the judgment or the ruling of this case. Now, Honorable Speaker, reading the judgment of this particular ruling, nowhere in this ruling does it say that the Speaker shall, upon this ruling, resign. Secondly, the person or the member of Parliament who has written this letter is Honorable Member for Starehe, who apparently is also the member who hosts Parliament. We are here because this particular house is actually hosted in Starehe constituency. When we look at his behavior in Parliament, he rarely sits in this Parliament. He is rarely in this Parliament, and the only time he comes close to Parliament or the presence of Parliament is when he is at the bar, which is close by here. But he is a member of Parliament. He should be seated here and answering his questions.
What is it? Order Mwenje. Order Mwenje. Order Mwenje. Order Mwenje. This is not a marketplace, for heaven's sake. And as a young lawyer and a young MP, I've been mentoring you, telling you how to conduct yourself. In many ways. However agitated you are, just maintain you are cool like the good old doctor next to you. Yes. Even if you have a point of order, you don't have to stand up and shout at your colleague. It's actually grossly disorderly conduct.
Carry on, Marian.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. If we look at this,
you have less than a minute to go.
Thank you. If we look at this particular ruling, Honorable Speaker, it talks about that you cannot be a member of a political party because you are not a member of parliament yet, and that is under the Political Parties Act. Yet the Constitution of Kenya, which is more supreme, actually states that the Honorable Speaker is an ex-officio member of parliament, and therefore the rights that a member of parliament enjoys, the same rights the speaker enjoys, and therefore the speaker can belong to a party.
Thank you. Member for Kajiado South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand also just to support the ruling by the High Court. We are supposed to abide by the ruling, and it's also good for today to confess that, Mr. Speaker, the time you have been voted in, personally I voted for you. And even today, if it was to be repeated, I would still vote for you. So that time you got a lot of votes.
Thank you for that.
You had a lot of friends. You had a lot of friends that time. And even now you have more. Mr. Speaker, if all of us are looking at the other agreement that have come in, my party that I serve, ODM, is also in the broad-based government as per now. They are also in the broad-based government. What I was requesting, can we, let me just finish. Let me finish.
Address across the floor. Address the chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker. My argument was, if we are able to go back to 2022, when the Kenyan people voted, they voted on manifesto, they voted on certain beliefs. So when Azimio One Kenya went to court, they went to look for justice at that time. It doesn't mean that even if justice took 2 years, then because judgment has been made, it is, for example, someone who has taken your property and given you a half of the property, and finally, the judgment has been made that the property is yours. You'll go back and take your property. I respect Kemani Chunga and I love him so much, but I also ask that Honorable Junet Mohammed is qualified to be the majority leader, and the Kenyans are waiting that decision to be made today as you go ahead. And the broad-based, let us enjoy the broad-based. What is the fruit of this broad-based? What's the fruits? We need that fruit, Mr. Speaker, today to see if they can give us a small cut of the meat. Thank you.
Chikati. Give him the mic. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Article 106 does not disqualify a political leader from holding a speaker's office at all. And I'll give some examples. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Speaker of this House, Madam Gladys Swalei, is an elected member of this Assembly from Uasin-Gishu County. Mr. Speaker, the party leader of MDG, Honorable Chieng, is a member of the Speaker's panel and is also a party leader. The Senate Speaker, Amason Kingi, is a party leader of a party called Pamoja Africa Alliance Party. Regionally, Mr. Speaker, all the national assemblies, all the county assemblies are also being led by elected speakers in the county assemblies. Regionally, the Speaker of Uganda, Madam Anita Among, is also an elected member of parliament from Bukedea district. In Tanzania, the Speaker of the National Assembly of Tanzania, Tulia Ackson, is an elected member of the National Assembly from Mbeya. This decision of disqualifying a speaker from holding a political office is unconstitutional and is an attempt to change Article 106 of the Constitution and is totally unacceptable. I submit.
Thank you. Ben Suda. Okay,
Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would want to seek for clarification and give my view on this issue. One, Speaker, we need to take 13th Parliament to stop giving the public mixed reactions and mixed signals on issues. And therefore, court rulings must be respected. Mr. Speaker, you know very well when there was the ruling on the wild goose chase, hot air and the rest, it was respected. When we are in this house, Mr. Speaker, as legislators, as lawmakers, I would want to support our colleagues who have requested you to guide and give us direction so that it is not for only members at this particular moment, but even for the years to come. When we undergo such kind of eventualities, things are set straight and pace is set. I want to appreciate the 6 facts which you gave on the ruling that the Speaker has conflict on interest. I was convinced with your 6 facts. But coming to the majority, party or position, Mr. Speaker, as I stand, you can see that I am and we are broadly competent and broadly majority. Even from the physical outlook, I'm the majority. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that this matter should be put... Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority is not judged by body morphology.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was intentional. But even the brain is majority. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that even the level that we have reached as a country, Honorable Junet Mohammed has navigated the river Niles and made sure that we are fully represented and there is peace. So this issue of mixed signals should not be there. Mr. Speaker, I say there is nothing wrong.
KJ.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you that I was able to catch your eye. And Mr. Speaker, you are hereby called upon to make a decision. And your decision is intended to be, expected to be a very Solomonic decision. Mr. Speaker, as you make your decision, you have to appreciate, one, that the problem that we are facing today is not a legal problem. In fact, it is a political problem, it is a numerical problem, it is about political numbers. Mr. Speaker, as you retreat to your chamber to make a ruling on this matter, all you need to understand is that there are pre-election coalitions and post-election coalitions. And this is Kenyans who decided, as they were granting themselves the constitution, that parties can come together before an election and come together after an election. So, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, so that this House can apply itself on the issues that Kenyans are keen to hear us debating, matters that concern their welfare, Mr. Speaker, I would call upon this House to agree that if, Mr. Speaker, you were to take a head count today, you would find that Kenya Kwanza is the majority, that Kimani Ichung'wah is the substantive majority leader, and that the numbers as they stand today, Mr. Speaker, you are right in your place to make a decision that Kenya Kwanza is the majority and status quo remains. Mr. Speaker, this is not legal, this is arithmetic, it is political. Just like Mbunge cannot apply itself on interpreting the law, the courts cannot make political decisions for this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask us to protect the sanctity of this House so that we can go into the business that Kenyans elected us to do. They did not elect us to argue about who is leader of majority and who is leader of minority. Mr. Speaker, make your ruling.
Rueda Obo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, twaheshimu uamuzi wa koti, lakini hapa hatukubaliani nao. Hatukubaliani nao kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu mwanzo sisi kama Jubilee Party, sisi tulikuwa tushaenda, hatuko kwa Azimio. Ukiangalia mawaziri wale tuko nao sahihi, wale walopeleka hii mambo kotini, Mheshimiwa Ondai, Mheshimiwa Waziri Mbadi, sahihi wako kwa hii serikali, wao ni mawaziri. Kwani hawa majaji walikuwa hawaoni kwamba mambo yamepita na mambo yameendelea? Kwani walikuwa wanaishi Kenya gani? Sasa huku ni kuleta taharuki, na sisi hatuna haja ya taharuki. Hii serikali imepitia changamoto kubwa, changamoto nyingi. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tafadhali watupatie nafasi tuendelee. Na hili jambo lako Speaker, mimi naona kama wewe, yani nashangaa kitu kama katiba haikusema, imenyamaza. Yamaanisha inaruhusiwa, so haina haja kuwalenga maspika wawili hawa. Katiba iko, ifuatwe katiba. Katiba haikukataza. Kwa hivyo kwa vile haikukataza, inamaanisha ni sawa ukue hapo kama spika. Bwana Spika, mimi naona mlengwa ni wewe, na labda utuambie ukweli. Hatujui umefanya nini huko, likanyaga waya au kuna history gani huko. Naona kama ni mlengwa wewe, umelengwa hapo. Na sisi tuwaona haya mambo ni kama kumwambia bibi na bwana wameoana, sasa uwaambie nyinyi kwa hamuruhusiwi legally kuoana. Watu washazaa, watu wamependana. Sisi tumeshikana kama broad base hiyo broad base. Sasa ya nini shida zote hizi?
Aseka from Huisero. Give him the mic, he's at the end there. There you are.
Thank you, Speaker. I've read the judgment, the 71 pages and 508 paragraphs. And I want to request you, Speaker, as you retire to do your judgment and your ruling, consider the repercussions of this ruling on the composition of the IBC selection panel, the repercussions on the Commission on Revenue Allocation, which was approved by this House, and its finding. Honorable Speaker, also consider the repercussions of the committee reports of this House. Mr. Speaker, also consider and advise this House if, when the court says that you as a political leader or maybe a party leader is not supposed to preside over this House, does it mean if even the President of the Republic of Kenya, who is a party leader in this country, is supposed to resign when he takes over or when he took over the parliament, the executive? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kitui, is it Kitui Central? Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is my input to this issue. In this House, everybody who sits in this House sought to protect the Constitution. We also sought to defend and protect the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. As it is now, the courts have given a ruling. And I have not seen anybody in this House who has tabled a stay order to this House saying that things should be the way they are supposed to be. Unless that has happened, Honorable Speaker, the House has no choice but to respect the position of the courts, the ruling. Whereby, as at the time we joined this House, there were pre-election coalition agreements which had been signed. On the basis of those pre-election coalition agreements, Azimio was declared to be the majority leader. The way forward, Honorable Speaker, is if there are post-election coalition agreements which have been signed or formalized, they just need to be tabled, Honorable Speaker, and this matter will make it very easy for you to make a ruling. But even as you make a ruling, Honorable Speaker, composition of committees, slots to the ABC Commission were determined on the basis of majority party, minority party. So it will have implications in terms of that. So, Honorable Speaker, the sooner you do this, the better for the House. Because we'll be able to know how do we then reorganize the committees. Because in a situation where Kenya Kwanza were the majority and now they are the minority, it means we have to rework the committees by reducing the numbers. So, Honorable Speaker, this is not a very simple matter as we are taking it. We need to take it very seriously, Honorable Speaker. And the starting point is to know, do we have post-election coalition agreements which have been formalized? Some parties have also crossed the other side, Honorable Speaker. We are aware. Some of us, Wiper, we are still very...
Yes, member sitting behind Rahim, is that Honorable Chiforomondo Makale?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, apart from the quagmire which has been caused by the courts, it is a wake-up call for the courts to ensure that matters which are presented before them, it is concluded on time so that it doesn't cause all this confusion. Because then a lot has expired, has happened before or after the case was taken into court. Mr. Speaker, I have gone through parts of the ruling, and I've seen that they have said that the decision of the majority party in parliament was done by the electorate. And I want to differ, because then, what was the reason for us to come and vote the majority leader here, the speaker, and all those leaders whom we did? Then I believe that these people did just purposely to confuse this parliament, and we need to put our foot down, because then, Mr. Speaker, people outside there need to hear us debating very serious issues which actually affect them. And this is the time to expedite this matter, and your guidance, Mr. Speaker, is paramount and important so that we move on. Otherwise, I see this issue as a time-wasting strategy for this parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me approach this matter on two limbs. First, the position of the Speaker has already been outlined under Article 97, N90, and 106. So there's no one who can challenge the position of the Speaker, who is supposed to be a member of Parliament and who is supposed to be elected as a person who is qualified to be a member of Parliament. Number two, on this issue of leadership, standing order number 19A, which is a 19, which is a replica of Article 108, clearly says that the majority party shall produce the majority leader. So the only question that you need to determine when making a decision in this matter, who is the majority party, or who is the majority of the coalition party. And those facts can only be achieved when you invite the registrar of the political parties to give you those facts. And the matter would end there. It's a weighty matter, but very simple to determine. And then we'll be able to determine who will be the majority leader. And any coalition, all the parties must also be brought to this parliament under order 19A. So whatever Honorable Millie Odhiambo purported to bring here was premature, because there was no agreement of political parties that was also brought with the list that she purported to bring before this House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Your immediate neighbor, Kapchai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the courts are intending to throw this House under the bus, and we must be very careful. On the 48 laws of power, Mr. Speaker, they say that if you want to disperse the flock, you strike at the shepherd. And you are the shepherd of this House. Striking you, Mr. Speaker, will disperse the flock of this House. I want to bring to your notice, Mr. Speaker, as you retire to make your judgment, that once this House was led by senior people, and I remember very well, Mr. Speaker, we had in 1993-94, Mr. Speaker, Fort Kenya was a leader of majority in this House, leader of opposition, under Honorable Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. But the moment the Speaker, Fort Kenya split into two, we got Fort Kenya and LDP. Mr. Speaker, during that time, we ran short of seats from 44 to 22, Mr. Speaker. And Honorable Mwai Kibaki, with the DP, took over this House as a leader of opposition. That tells you what, Mr. Speaker? The House leadership is dynamic. You can never step in a river twice, Mr. Speaker. If you do that, you are a different man in different waters. So, Speaker, this House is dynamic. Make a decision as is. Having heard Honorable Murungara said here, make the decision as is today. Give your evidence and declare. And the Speaker, Honorable Ichung'wa, is the majority leader as is today, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Matuga. Yes. Give to Honorable Tandaza. There is time, you'll all speak, so don't worry.
Which one? Oh, asante. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Tandaza, so nyorosha maneno.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa sababu mimi ni mhandisi, sikumbuki kama ni mwandishi gani aliyesema kwamba hata ikiwa ulikuwa na farasi wako ambaye unampenda, hata ikiwa ulikuwa na farasi wako ambaye anakimbia mbio kushinda na kuleta zawadi zote, lakini kwa bahati mbaya umri wako umefika na amefariki, haina haja uendelee kumbembeleza ule farasi, haina haja uendelee kumletea chakula ule farasi kwa sababu ulikuwa unampenda sana, ati atamka ndio aweze kukushindia zile mbio ulikuwa unazitaka. Kitu cha kufanya ni kutafuta farasi mwingine, umlishe, umfanyishe mazoezi, aendelee kushinda. Sasa uamuzi huu kwa kifupi umepitwa na wakati, na najua wanahistoria ni wengi hapa, ndio maana tunazungumza kwa kirefu, lakini ukweli ulivyo, na sidhani kama kuna mtu ambaye anateshwishi na jambo hili, kwamba Azimio ilifariki. Kama hawataki kuizika ni sawa, lakini tunajua ilifariki, na uamuzi unazungumzia Azimio ambayo haipo. Sasa tutafufua vipi farasi ambaye amefariki hata kama tulikuwa tunampenda? Ndugu zangu, tukubalianeni, Spika tulimchagua sawa sawa. Kiongozi walio wengi ni Kimani Ichung'wa, yuko hapa na bado ndio tuko wengi. Sasa sioni haja tukidhani hata tutamfufua farasi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the House of Rules. Kenya is a country of laws. Today, the ruling that will be given about this matter will determine whether the House is a House that obeys court orders or a House that disobeys court orders. There is judiciary for a reason. There is legislature for a reason. There is executive for a reason. But this time, today, the court has issued a ruling. There is no way that a court can issue a court ruling and then it's taken to a police station, and then the court, then people, the police officers. Mr. Speaker, the House, there is no way that a court issues a court ruling, then it is taken to the police station, then you tell the police officers that you guys have a discussion about this court ruling and then decide to the left or right. There is a court ruling. This country is a country that should obey court orders and should obey this court order. This parliament should obey the court order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bukose. Give to Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think on the issues about the position of the Speaker, I was your agent, Honorable Speaker, during that time, and I can confirm that there was no requirement for you that you should be able to resign as the party leader of Fort Kenya. So I think that's something that is passed. On this issue about the majority and minority, Honorable Speaker, as you retreat, I want you to be guided by our Constitution, because in Article 108, it talks of the leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. And as it stands now, that is Kimani Ichung'wa, is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest coalition. And Junaid Mohammed is the leader of the second coalition in the National Assembly. And Honorable Speaker, the court gave you a chance that you should be able to rule as it is now. And that is why it talks of ex parte and ante. And therefore, I think it is a new beginning that you are able to rule, and as you rule today, it stands from there moving forward. So it is not a question of going back as after the elections, pre-election agreements, or anything of that nature. I rest my case, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Garissa Mujini.
Yeah, Mujini. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have been raising our hands here for quite a long time.
Don't complain, I've given you an opportunity to make your point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, there is some confusion here in that some people are misinterpreting the court ruling, in that the decision of the court was that a decision has been made on who is the majority and who is the minority coalition in this House. The decision of the court was that, the ruling of the court was that your decision that you made on the 6th of October was null and void. However, who is to make this decision again? It is not for the courts. It is for the Speaker of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, we have sat here for the whole afternoon and no other business of this House can take place because a decision has to be made. Can you make that decision, Mr. Speaker? It is upon you, it is with you. The coalitions, this issue is just about numbers. We know the numbers, you know the numbers. Make the decision based on those numbers that you have. This is a political issue. It has nothing to do with the illegal issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alice Nganga of Thika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, a ruling was done in this House, and Kimani Ichung'wah was declared as the majority leader, and to me, that ruling still stands. Mr. Speaker, National Assembly is an independent arm of government, and whatever business that we do here stands. Courts cannot make laws. It is us who do it here. So when they go outside there and a ruling was done in 2022 and they purport to change that ruling, that making a country to come to a standstill, does it mean, Mr. Speaker, you clarify for us all the businesses that we have concluded in this House, is it null and void? Does it mean everything that we have done in this House does not count? The courts need to know they stop interfering with the running of this House. And what I have seen from this ruling, Mr. Speaker, these are people who don't wish this nation well. They are outside here because of broad base to scatter everything and the achievement that we have achieved this far. And the only big word I can tell them, washindwe tena sana.
Thank you. Kajwang. Mr. Speaker.
Check. Check, yes. Mr. Speaker, you are up to the task. You are a veteran speaker, you are a veteran lawyer, you are a veteran politician.
And you are senior.
And my senior. The fact of the matter is that now there is a High Court decision. The question would be, what will you do with it? I want to bring to your attention, and I'm sure your staff will bring this to you, the ruling which you made on 8th of June about the issue of political parties. And you are the only speaker who respects the rule of law. You came here, the very first speech you gave was heartwarming, that you came here to protect the Constitution. You came here above all to, please give me a little time, I think we are at the end of the, yes. You came here to, if there is a court order, although you differ with them, although you could have a respectful view otherwise, but you'll obey it. What you said was this, on that day, that That I think, let me just get it for you. In difference to the directions the court with respect to the appellate administration process, I did notify the House, despite the discomfort of this decision caused on the business of the House. Immediately thereafter, I instructed the liaison litigation question to challenge the Speaker. As your Speaker, I remain cognizant of the obligation imposed on Article 3 of the Constitution with respect to defend the Constitution and proceedings of the House. Despite the sympathies I hold for the predicament of the minority party, my hands are tied with regards to the court order. The only question, all these debates in the afternoon are neither here or there. The issue is there is now an order. We wait that you make a decision, and cognizant to the rule of law, which under Article 10 is very conspicuous, we know that you will do it. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Dr. Nyikal. Sorry, Doctor, with your age, we've kept you for so long.
And therefore, what was before you is, as people saying, Mr. Speaker, you'll make a decision, or you will resolve, or you do. What is remaining is for you to implement the decision of the court. But if you take the position, Mr. Speaker, that the status ante is what prevails, then, Mr. Speaker, again, did you have to subject the whole House for this lengthy discussion? All that was there was to let the process go on, and you should have adjourned this House long time ago, because in reality, this House cannot proceed if, as constituted, it has no majority or minority leadership. Mr. Speaker, as regards as to whether you will be fair, sometimes I think justice actually can be beyond the law. You are a leader of a party, it is known. That party is part of a coalition, you are known. They have members that sit in this House. Mr. Speaker, you have to be an angel, not actually to be favor one part. And even this decision, some may be tempted to think that that is what actually drove your decision. You are a very experienced lawyer. You are very articulate. You know the law. How is it that you made the decision that the court has found actually not to be correct? So, Mr. Speaker, one, I think we should look at the position that if somebody is a leader of a party, can they be a Speaker of the House? And two,
read the judgment. Honorable Ruth Odinga. I'll give you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I long wanted to speak. First of all, I would like to state that I'm not a lawyer, and I really don't know much about law. What actually makes me puzzled is when I see lawyers who respect the law and decisions made by courts when it favors them. And when it doesn't, then you say that we have quasi decision in Parliament, we have quasi whatever and whatever. Mr. Speaker, the court has nullified your decision, and therefore we go back to what I would say is the status quo ante. And in the status quo ante, it was very, very obvious that the party that the political parties declared was Azimio as the majority. So in itself, when you say we go back to the status quo ante, that is the position we are supposed to have. I am not agreeing. I'm not having 1 minute because that is short. Secondly, most of those parties that have said that they are Azimio, those Azimio parties have not left the coalition. They have stated and they've said they want to leave, but they have not left. So as far as we are still here, most of them, they're there. They're still under Azimio, and therefore they belong to this party. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, one of the things you are accused of was impartiality. Even through your demeanor and how you actually are giving people a chance to speak here and how we are, that impartiality still shows. I don't know whether that decision means that you're the one who's going to decide on whether who is going to be, because if it is you, we know which side you're going to go. Please let us have somebody else come and make the decision. Thank you.
Ruth Odinga, you are grossly out of order. You are grossly out of order. Bring a motion and discuss the Speaker, if you wish. Ruku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate you and thank you for the leadership you have shown to this House for the last 2.5 years. You have read us with a lot of wisdom and acumen. Also, Mr. Speaker, I want also to congratulate the Majority Leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, because for the last 2.5 years he has done an incredible job. Mr. Speaker, Judiciary delayed this ruling for 2 years, and they say, as they say, justice delayed is justice denied, Mr. Speaker. This does not say that the ruling is spot on. Mr. Speaker, the separation of powers, as far as our Constitution is concerned, is a very critical principle which underpins the way the three arms of government should be able to operate at work. Mr. Speaker, if you refer to the political parties, to the register of political parties, you'll be able to get the results or the membership of parties within the coalitions. And this will give you a very straight answer on which side is the majority in this House. I am sure this is not a difficult ruling. It's not a difficult thing for you to do, Mr. Speaker. You'll be able to retreat and come up with an answer guided by the registrar of political parties. And I am sure the results will be that Kenya Kwanza Coalition is the majority in this House. And therefore, we stand to produce the leader of majority, the leader of minority, the leader of...
Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I'm going to close this debate at 6. So those I'll give space, please compose your idea.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As a country, as members of Parliament, we swore to protect the Constitution of Kenya. Respecting our court decision is not a matter of discretion. It is a must. Until the High Court decision is appealed or set aside, we have no other option but to accept and obey the court decision. Honorable Speaker, the ruling has brought us to 4. When is an election held? When are the results announced? And once the results are announced, does any other body in this country have the power to change the composition of the membership of this Parliament? Honorable Speaker, elections were held in August 2022. The numbers were very clear. The numbers have not changed. And Article 108 is very clear what becomes what and what becomes what. Honorable Speaker, the ruling you are being invited to make is generally not even a ruling. Until we annul the court order, then we have no choice that the decision you made has been annulled, and the decision you made then was to say Kenya Kwanza was the majority party. The other opposite is very simple, straightforward. That if it was annulled, you have to go back and find the details. Who was the majority party then? Because the decision was being annulled is that particular decision. I do not know what else we are supposed to do. On the issue of your position as Speaker and the member of for the Kenya party, is neither here nor there. Because we leave it to your conscience. Whether it impacts your impartiality or not, we leave it to your conscience. You are an elder. We respect you. We do not want to go into that matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Bissau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I received this ruling and I've read it very clearly. I've also listened to the lawyers in the House, but surprisingly, starting with the first item, whether it is correct for you to remain the party leader of Fort Kenya and at the same time be the Speaker, our Constitution is very clear. Article 77(2), it talks about an appointed officer who shall not hold a political party position. But you are not you are not an appointed state officer. You are elected. And my neighbor here, Dr. Bokosa, I remember he was your chief agent. And many of us voted for you, including my brother, your senior counsel, your learned friend, Atendo Molo, who actually voted for you. So that, we pack it and we leave it at that. And even across the border, your colleagues, Aneta Mong, she's the Speaker of Uganda. She's actually, in fact, even now vying for a position in NRM. Dr. Tulia Axon, she's also an elected person. So there's nothing that restricts you to remain the Fort Kenya party leader and be the Speaker at the same time. On the other issue, about the majority and minority, I have read this ruling very clearly. But again, our courts have not come out clearly to say what is what. And if you look at Roman 3, on their decision, it talks about an order of certiorari is hereby issued quashing the Honorable Speaker's ruling or determination contained in his communication from the chair made on 6 October 2022 on the majority and minority in the National Assembly.
Thank you. Yeah. Give him half a minute.
What we expect is our courts to be giving us very clear ruling. The court is telling you retreat and tell us who is the majority in this case. They've mentioned both the minority and the majority, minority and majority. And
indulge in the